right, this is Gerald Khalil, Koran Blast. Koran, how you doing today?
Doing good, man. Another day.
Yes, sir. So last week we had the NBA's all-time top five, the greatest of all time, in our opinions. So we figure this week, at least, to break it down, and we're going to talk about the top five centers of all times, the top fives of all time. So
Right, right. The big men.
the big men, yes, sir. So
Yes, sir.
Koran, go ahead and start us off.
So I've been doing a lot of thinking, doing a lot of research, looking through things. And I basically selected some people that I had remembered when I was a kid watching the NBA growing up. So some people that I didn't see play, and a couple people that I have on this list are people that, just like I said, I grew up watching regularly. So my number five player on the list is Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing was a great basketball player. He averages 22 points a game. He had 10 rebounds a game. He played in the league 15 years. He had 11 All-Star appearances. So he was an overall great player, like an old school big man. He was a great player to watch him play consistently with the Knicks back in the day. They did have 13 consecutive years where they went to the playoffs with him starting as their center. They went to the finals twice, but they did lose both times. He did not get a ring, but just his dominance and what he did for New York, I do admire him and the things that he did. So Pat Ewing is my number five.
Right. Yeah, I'm well versed with Pat Ewing. Being growing up, being a Knicks fan, um, it was a lot of heartbreak being a Knicks fan. Let me tell you. But he always bought it. Did his best, but couldn't bring home the championship. Um, so my number five is Hakeem Olajuwon. All right.
Mm.
This was a big man who I think had the best footwork of big men ever, in my opinion. He won two championships. He, if you remember the Dream Shake, it was
Yes.
one of the best moves of all time. He was good defensively. He was a guy who came to play every single game. You never saw him dogging it. So that's who I have at my number five, Hakeem Olajuwon.
Yeah, Hakeem was a great player. The points that he scored, the way he made those centers look stupid back in the day. He took advantage of Mike being out of the league for those 2 years, and won two championships. So yeah, Hakeem Olajuwon is a great center. Going into my number four pick, um, I picked David Robinson. So David Robinson, the Admiral. He was a great player. He had 10-time All-Star experiences, um, 10-time All NBA. He had he had two rings with Duncan, so they did very well. And that was a dominant team back then too. So he was probably like one of the best in shape big man that I had ever seen. He was ripped to the gills, man. That dude had muscles. He had muscles everywhere, and he was big, and I loved his game. He was very powerful. Um, he wasn't able to get past Shaq back in the day, but when Shaq got to the league, it was a little bit different. But yeah, he was a great center, and I loved watching him play back in the day.
He was a very disciplined, level-headed person, right? And it seemed like San Antonio seemed to get these guys, right? Um, very, very nice person. I remember his career high was 70. I think he hit 70 points one
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yes, he did.
So
Yes, he did.
yeah, no, he was a dominant player. But for my number four, I got the Diesel, Shaq at number
Mm.
four. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So Shaq, he was dominant when he was with Orlando. He was dominant when he went to the Lakers. Um, it could be argued that he was the most dominant, imposing player of all time. You just couldn't stop him. I what's going through my head right now is him banging on Dikembe Mutombo, just putting that shoulder down and just banging him, and then just
Yeah.
slamming all
Did
over
that to
him.
everybody.
Yeah, but
Did it to everybody.
yes, he did,
Yeah.
man, and people forget, but he had good footwork too. He could take the ball from end to end. He seemed to stop.
Yeah.
He seemed to stop doing it when he got with the Lakers, but when he was with
Right.
the Magic and playing with
Yes.
Hardaway, he was doing that. Um,
Yeah, he was. He had
so
them young knees.
yeah, the dude he was the new school Daryl Dawkins, the new school
Yeah.
Chocolate Thunder, breaking backboards and stuff like that. But he had incredible skill. He was one of the most powerful players ever. Uh, I got to give it up to Shaquille O'Neal for number four.
Wow. Well, Shaq is my number three. I know I'm probably gonna get some flack for that, but 15-time All-Star, 4 rings, 2-time scoring champion, which is crazy for a center. So he did a great job with that also. And he was just like I think we talked about before, he was the Batman in that duo that they had in LA. So Kobe was Robin and Shaq was the Batman there. So he led that team and willed them to those championships that they had. So um can't 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 give enough credit to what they did as teammates. But Shaq was super dominant. They got him there and they went crazy and had 3 titles. So yeah, Shaquille O'Neal is my number three.
All right. My number three is Bill Russell, a
Mm,
man who won 11 championships. He was a not a big stats guy, but defensively he was awesome. Um, he was like actually he was the first, and this is away from his playing. The first black coach. He
mm,
coached the Celtics. He was a players coach also, right? Um, he was fantastic at blocking shots. And where you have a lot of folks just block his shot and they'll just swat the ball right out of bounds. No, he would block a shot and keep it in play for his teammates to
mm.
go and run the ball down on the other end of the court and score. Um, so I mean, you talk about champion. You talk about Tom Brady with all the rings he has. The grandfather of them all is Bill Russell with the 11. And you got to get him on that list because that is just phenomenal, which is unheard of today.
Absolutely. So like I talked about at the beginning, there's a couple guys on there that I didn't see play, that I do have on a list, and there's people that I don't have on a list because I didn't see him play. But Bill Russell, I have at my number two for the things that he accomplished in his career. 11 rings. In 13 years, he had 11 rings, which is crazy to accomplish that. And nobody's gonna catch that. I don't see it happening. Um, he he averaged 15 points, 22 rebounds a game. So that's on average for 13 years, which is crazy. Also, 12-time All Star. Just the stats speak for himself. And with him having 5-time MVP also, He just the stats are crazy. So Bill Russell is my number two. Um, but yeah, he's a great player. Absolutely.
Okay, so and it's funny you mentioned people you've never seen. So yeah, I never of course saw Bill Russell either. Um, and the next person, um, my number two, I didn't see. Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain, the what did we say? I mean, a guy who scored 100 points. He was a terrific athlete. He was one of the most dominant forces ever. He averaged 50 points a game, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
For a season, 50 points a game. That's just
Yeah,
crazy. And I'm going to have to
yeah,
do
it's crazy.
more research on him. Now, I want to say this before you go to your number one. I want to shout out Baseline Hang Time 8. Okay, he
Mm,
wrote some comments in on uh, our greatest players video, and he gave a lot of stats on Wilt Chamberlain, right? And it was so much. And I don't know, hang time. I don't know if you watch it, you'll watch this or not. But man, you had so much, man. I got to go and do some research myself on him. But uh, a lot of it was a lot of stuff was pretty fascinating. Um, the only thing I will push back on, um, we do know that when both Wilt and Bill Russell was playing, there was only 8 teams at the time, right?
mm,
And the majority of these players were talking about it was 30, like today. Um, and probably the argument would be, well, yeah, there were 8, but the talent was more concentrated, right? So, you think about the Celtics, they had so many great players on that one team with Bill Russell. But I think the counter argument would be that, well, there's more talent in the league today, even more. So even though it's
absolutely.
right, even though it's more spread out, and then the argument that the athletes are more advanced today than back then. But I'm sure Baseline will come with an argument against that. But but hey, Baseline, much respect to your comments and your arguments. So yeah, Will Chamberlain's my number two.
All right, I'm gonna speak on Wilt a little bit. Just like you said, 100 points in that game. He had 100 points. He had 55 rebounds. I don't know if you knew that,
Ooh.
but that was in that same game. 100 points and 55 rebounds was crazy. But yeah, he was 5-time MVP and 2-time champion. So only a 2-time champion. That's kind of like why I didn't put him on my list because of the amount of rings that he didn't have. But he did have a lot of big accolades and accomplishments in his career. Um, my number one, I think we probably have the same number one. That's what I'm thinking. Is the skyhook Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So he was one of the greatest players that I had ever seen play as a kid. He was 20 years in the league. He was the number one scoring champion for all the way since 1984. LeBron just passed it a couple years ago. So, this guy was amazing. So, the things that he did, we talked about before how his shot is unblockable. And he brought them to 5 different championships. He had 5 MVPs. He's just an overall great player. He went to 19 All-Star games. So, great overall player, and one of the best ever to play the game, especially at the center position.
I got him number one, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Um, the, probably the greatest center I've ever seen with my own eyes. And the thing is, if you think about it, we seen him in his kind of his later days, right?
Right, right.
When he was with the Lakers and Magic. Um,
Yep.
was kind of running the show. But if you do some research, which I'm sure you did, when he played with Milwaukee, he was so dominant. It was ridiculous. And you mentioned the sky hook. That was an unblockable shot. You couldn't stop it. Um, and then also Kareem, you understand defensively he was great too. He doesn't get those accolades for his defensive prowess. But
Right.
yes, I agree. Number one, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Absolutely, bro. This is a good one. I like it. Um, it's a lot of good tips in here. I know we're gonna get some flack. Um, from the older folks, the older guys that know a little bit more than us about the stats. Because there were some people that we did live off the list that I was looking at. I was like, I really don't know who these people are. You know what I mean? And I think you were talking to me about a couple of them. Bill Walton was one of them that we were talking about.
Okay, so
Um,
you got some honorable mentions, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking about Bill Walton, how you were telling me about him and how great he was, and I was looking up some stats of how he played and how he brought Portland to a title. And then he had got the injury in his foot, and it, uh, took his career to the other end. But he was overall great player, and I loved him as a commentator too. But yeah, he was good.
Oh, Bill Russell was great. Not no, remember he won a title with Boston too, with the Celtics.
Yeah.
So I
Yep.
so no, he was great. He Injuries was his issue, and
Yeah.
injuries in his foot. And I think if he would have came about today, because of medicine, he probably would have been okay, right? But
Right.
but when did he play? Back in the late '70s, mid to late '70s, '80s. Um, yeah, that's the injuries is what took him out, right? But when he was healthy, man, he was a problem. Bill Walton
Yeah.
was a real problem.
Absolutely.
Now I know you mentioned.
Absolutely.
Let me get this one in. See, I have a couple of honorable mentions. So you mentioned David Robinson and Patrick Ewing. Those two were also on my honorable mentions.
Yeah. I got you.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
mentioned
We see
like Patrick. My argument for Patrick not being on the list, he didn't win a title at all, right? He came close, and even
he
in
came
this,
close.
and even in the second finals that the Knicks played in, he was hurt. It was Marcus Camby who was playing. I think Marcus Camby was playing center that when or am I too far up? Because that was '99. Was Patrick playing in '99?
Yeah, that was 99. That was a short season that they played and lost against the Spurs.
Right. Okay. So I was right. So and
Yeah, you're
Patrick
right.
was he was hurt. So
Mm.
um yeah, yeah, man.
And it's not fair. And it's not fair also. He had to play against Mike, man. He had to deal with Mike every year of his career.
Yeah,
And he had to try to get past Chicago in the finals every year they played.
yeah.
And unfortunately, he was playing the GOAT, and they just couldn't get away from him, man. Couldn't get away from him. Crazy, you know.
Who else you got on your honorable list?
That's what I had. That was the only one I was talking about. I didn't have anybody else.
All right.
Just like I said, I had Will Chamberlain was honorable, was one of them, and then you know that was about it. I don't have anything else.
Okay, now I'm gonna give you two more for my honorable
Uh-oh.
list. Robert Parrish
Okay.
and Moses Malone.
Yeah, Moses Malone was a beast.
Moses Malone was a beast.
Yeah.
Remember the Sixers? He was.
Yes.
They were crazy.
Yes. He was ripping down backboards too, right?
No, Moses. I
He
don't
was also
remember
ripping
him.
down.
I don't remember him ripping
No,
backboards
I
down.
thought he was ripping backboards down. One of those dudes was ripping backboards down back then.
You must be thinking of Daryl Dawkins, Chocolate
Yeah, I
Thunder.
think that's who it is. That's who it is. That's who it is. That's who it is.
Yeah,
Daryl Dawkins. That's who it is.
but But
Yeah,
Robert
absolutely.
Robert Parrish, man, when he was playing with Bird and McHale, um,
Yeah,
that front line, Bird, McHale, Parrish, man, that may be the best front line of all time. I don't know.
that was some big boys. That was the ugliest jump shot I ever seen, though. Him and Bill Cartwright is the ugliest jump shots I ever seen in my life.
And
They were bad. It was real bad.
and Moses Malone, it can be argued that when he was playing with Julius Erving, Dr. J, that Philadelphia 76er team, that was the best one season team ever. Because I remember
Mm.
his mantra was when they got into the playoffs was full, 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 meaning they were going to sweep everybody four straight, and they almost did it. They actually
Wow.
one team took them 5 games, but
Okay.
the Sixers was so dominant. But it was mainly because of Moses Malone. That's how good he was.
Huh,
Yeah,
huh.
that's how
Yeah,
good.
that's before my time, man. I really wasn't paying attention to it then, if I was even alive.
Yeah, you were alive. You were alive.
Yeah.
And
All
then
right.
uh players of today, I mentioned him before. Jokic, Nikola Jokic, would as far as
Absolutely.
centers, man. To me, he's the only one going on right now that I can think of that could make it. Um, my boy Joel Embiid gets hurt too often, man. I can't put him on the list,
He is also Mr. Glass. This dude is hurt every year. Mr. Glass.
man.
Like always hurt something. He's so big, man. You know. But I couldn't put Embiid on there. Jokic, I can't put on there yet because it's too early.
Hmm.
You know, what do you got? 3 MVPs, 1 ring. Um, he's got to do more. He
Yeah,
got to do a lot more.
yeah.
To get on the greatest list.
Well,
But
you
if
gotta
you,
admit he's like a bullet going up. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah, he's very consistent. You don't
Yeah.
see him hurt. He's balling all every night. You know, he's going in hard. So yeah, I could see it happening, but I can't give it to him right now. Not yet. Not yet. Got some work to do.
What one question I have, and this is to anyone who watches this video, um, and I'm going to do my research myself, but and hey, maybe Baseline knows, but did Wilt ever have a Robin? Right?
Mm.
Because I'm looking at my top five. Right? Hakeem had Clyde Drexler. Shaquille had Kobe. Bill Russell had his whole team. They were all Robins.
Right.
Okay.
Right. They were all
Uh,
Robins. Yeah.
um, and Kareem, uh, of course, he had Magic, right? Or
And worthy. And worthy.
right. And hey, you could say that he wasn't the Batman. You could make that argument when it was later on with the Lakers, but
Right.
when he was with Milwaukee, he had Oscar Robertson, and Oscar
Mm.
Robertson was his Robin. So in Wilt's peak, during his peak, not when his later days when he was with the Lakers, because you could say Jerry West, but I think Jerry West was the Batman. Who was Wilt's Robin? Who was his wingman? Because I've never heard of him having another player besides him that was, like a person he could count on.
Right. I haven't either.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. It's a good question.
yeah, man.
Maybe we get some reaction to that. I would love to know.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
So, man, that's a good list, man. More
Yeah, man.
respect, man. Respect. Um, and
I
say
knew
I.
you was gonna like Pat on there.
Yeah, I didn't put him on there, but hey, but no, no, Patrick. Yeah, Patrick worked every game. He did.
Absolutely, man.
Uh,
Consistency.
yeah, but no, this was good. So we're gonna bring next time we probably do the top forwards of all time. Um,
Okay.
and once again, uh, please leave a comment. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll catch you in the next one.
Peace.